Now, as the White House seems to be shifting its position on the war in Ukraine, Kyiv continues to look for ways to get the upper hand in defending itself against the Russian invasion. With hundreds of Shahed drones attacking Ukraine almost every night, there simply aren't enough missiles to intercept them all. DW's Nick Connolly spent some time with the Ukrainian unit patrolling the skies with nothing more than a rifle.
This plane was never built for war. It was meant to train pilots. It even has a propeller made of wood. And yet these dinky planes have become an important piece of Ukraine's air defence, hunting Russia's reconnaissance and attack drones. It's as dangerous as it looks. The gunner has to open the canopy at altitude to take a shot at Russian drones just a few hundred metres away with an assault rifle. Earlier on in this war, Russian Shaheds could be downed with machine guns from the ground. But newer models fly higher and faster. Ukrainian anti-drone crews have to get much closer to their target to stand a chance.
We get within about 150 to 200 meters of the Shaheds. If you hit them too close, the blast wave will get you. If you're a bit further away, say 500 meters, you can go for where the explosives are. It's usually best to shoot at the engine.
This gunner, who we're calling Serhiy, tells us he recently downed 3 Shaheds in the space of just half an hour. Hitting the drones isn't the problem, he says, it's finding them in the first place. An onboard radar would be too heavy for these planes, so they have to rely on information from the ground and the gunner's eyes.
It's usually easier to find them if we're flying above them. And when we want to shoot them down, we descend, and we shoot them from below.
But relying on the gunner's sight has its limitations. These planes only operate from dawn to dusk, and even heavy rain can be a problem. But not the cold.
I've flown in winter when it was minus 24 degrees Celsius on the ground and even colder up there. You don't even have time to feel cold.
What this plane lacks in sophistication, it more than makes up for in price. The unit's commander, who we're calling Taras, tells us older Yak-52s like this plane can be bought in Europe for as little as €50,000. That's less than the estimated cost of a single Russian Shahed drone of the kind that these crews shoot down. The price tag is all the more striking when compared with the millions of euros that NATO forces recently spent shooting down the same type of Russian drones over Poland.
If I wanted to boast, I could tell you that one of our teams recently downed a Shahed with just 5 bullets. 5 bullets and it was gone.
It's thrift born of necessity. Russia now routinely launches over 500 Shahed drones a day, not counting additional reconnaissance drones that direct missile strikes. Ukraine doesn't have the luxury of downing them all with expensive missiles. Reports have even emerged of the country's prized F-16 jets being scrambled to gun down these drones. Much better and cheaper to send up these crews.
They turn, they dodge and dive. They now do all kinds of maneuvers to evade us. It's getting harder all the time. Sometimes it'll take 40 minutes to catch them. The teams come back drenched in sweat and exhausted.
But as so often in this war, just as one side finds a solution to counter new technology, the other side responds. These images were captured by one of the Russian drones targeted by a Ukrainian plane like the one that Taras flies. Newer Russian drones aren't just fitted with cameras to find targets down below, they also increasingly have cameras to spot planes or other drones sent to intercept them. AI or the drone operator can then decide how best to shake off the drone's pursuers.
You're just sitting there in the plane working some controls. It's not physically hard, but the responsibility of getting it right really takes it out of you. If you get it wrong, that drone is going to hit someone or send a missile to hit someone else.
Often enough, that means these crews and their bases. While far behind Ukraine's Western-supplied F-16s on Russia's hit list, these planes and their pilots have repeatedly come under fire from Russian missiles. All the better then that they can take off from almost anywhere, even a bumpy field like this.
We're joined now by Kerry Chavez, who's an international security expert. Thanks for joining us, Kerry. The planes we saw in that report, they're clearly cheap, but it looks like they're pretty risky in combat. Are they really an effective way to go after Russian drones?
It appears under some conditions they are the most effective way. They've been used since mid-April, and the fact that Ukrainian units continue to use them and are having success taking down some of the UAS suggests that they have some utility in this conflict. There will come a point, probably, as the report just indicated, as Russia continues to eye them and identify ways to interdict and mitigate this, there might come a point when they'll be less effective. That's that offense-defense dialectic. But as long as this grants Ukraine a defensive edge, they'll continue to use them.
So Russia is flooding the skies with cheap drones. Ukraine can't afford to shoot them all down, obviously, with expensive missiles, again, as we heard in that report. How is this changing the thinking about air defences?
I think it's showing that a total modern war, especially an attritional war, it requires the mobilization of all state resources. So you have old and new. And this is happening on both sides. As Russia sends their cheap drones, their one-way attack drones, Ukraine is having to resort to this World War I technology, and conflict is always a mix of old and new tech. So innovation sometimes doesn't mean generating some new course of action or some new tactic, technique, or procedure. Sometimes it's about being resourceful with old resources and surprise combinations. On Russia's side, in response to Ukraine's small UAS, they have been having to field older and older variants of tanks and artillery. So this is happening on both sides.
Would you say, though, that drones are now playing a more decisive role in Ukraine than tanks or artillery?
I think that sometimes is a misnomer because they're the newest and they get the most sensational coverage. They certainly are changing the character of the Ukraine war, drones that is, but we're still seeing use of other platforms, of traditional platforms. And really the units that are the most effective are the ones that are able to architecturally combine them and find ways to offset one another. So of course, drones are a central part of this conflict, but that doesn't make obsolete some of the other platforms, both the traditional and the emerging.
As you were saying, this sort of constant back and forth in this war, one side introduces a new tactic, new tech, the other counters almost in real time, it feels like. Is that kind of rapid innovation now typical in modern warfare, whether in Ukraine or elsewhere?
I think so. I think it's typical in any conflict. And today, with emerging technologies and with some of the rapid innovations we've seen coming from societies on both sides, I think this is indicative of the kind of dialectic we would expect. And some of those new innovations bear higher risks of uncertainty. So resorting to old solutions makes sense. Conflict is already such a high-risk endeavor. So seeing things like using scissors to cut fiber optic cables of those first-person drones, using fishing nets to cover command and controller communications posts to keep ammunition from dropping on it, covering tanks in cages, all of these techniques are coming alongside some of the newest and more exquisite innovations, and they all play together in this fast clip of modern war.
And with these new techniques that you're talking about, I mean, is there a danger that warfare is essentially becoming more affordable and with that more of an option for other actors?
It's an interesting question. I think there are some who are concerned that it's becoming more affordable because of some open commercial innovations and the way that actors are creatively leveraging them. Nonetheless, the cost of life is never affordable. And when you do have a total modern war and you're mobilizing both these commercial variants or these clever rudimentary innovations on top of some of the more expensive defenses and offenses, I would say on par, no, warfare is not becoming more affordable.
Kerry Chavez, international security expert. Really great to talk to you, Kerry. Thank you.
Thank you.